Let me take you into something that most people skip when they start talking about boundaries. Everyone wants a quick script, a one-liner, some magic phrase that makes people back off instantly. But the truth is, you can't even begin to expect anyone else to respect your boundaries if you don't know what they are yourself. That's the starting line. And a lot of people don't realize how vague they actually are about their own limits. They just feel uncomfortable in the moment and hope the other person picks up on it. That's not a boundary, that's a wish. Think about it. If you don't know what line you don't want crossed, how is someone else supposed to know? It's like inviting someone over to your house, but not telling them which rooms are off limits. They're wandering around, maybe opening a door here or there, and suddenly you're upset because they went into the wrong room. But you never told them. You never even told yourself. That's how most of us go through life with our personal space, our time, our energy. We get annoyed, we get drained, we get frustrated, but we never clearly defined what our boundaries are in the first place. So the first step is getting brutally clear on where you stand. Ask yourself, what behaviors leave me feeling resentful? What requests make me feel overwhelmed? What interactions drain me instead of filling me? Those moments aren't just inconveniences, they're clues. They're flashing signs telling you this is where a boundary is missing. And the more you ignore those signs, the more you train yourself to tolerate what you don't actually want. Now, clarity isn't just about listing things you don't want. It's also about knowing what you or don't want. Boundaries aren't walls. They're not about shutting people out or keeping everyone away. They're about creating a framework where connection can actually happen in a healthy way. It's the difference between a house with locked doors and a house with no doors at all. With no doors, anyone can walk in at any time, and you never feel safe. With locked doors, you choose who comes in and when, and the relationships you allow and feel intentional. Let me give you an example. Maybe you notice you always leave conversations with a certain friend feeling drained. They talk over you, or they unload every problem on you, and you walk away exhausted. That's not a random feeling. That's your body telling you, hey, this doesn't work for me. The boundary might be as simple as deciding, I'll listen, but only for 15 minutes, or I'm not going to take calls from them when I'm already stressed. See how that's clarity. You're not waiting for them to magically change. You're defining what's okay for you. The beautiful part about clarity is that it doesn't just make your boundaries stronger. It makes communicating them so much easier. When you're unsure of your own limits, your words come out shaky, uncertain, apologetic. You sound like you're trying to convince yourself while convincing them. But when you're crystal clear, you don't need to sell it. You just state it. People can feel the difference. Here's the thing: clarity builds confidence, and confidence builds respect. People don't respect a blurry line. They respect a firm, steady one. Imagine you're driving and the lane lines are faded and barely visible. You don't know where you're supposed to be, and you start drifting. But if those lines are bold and clear, you don't question it. You just stay in your lane. That's exactly how people operate with your boundaries. I'll be honest with you, clarity takes some work. It means reflecting. It means being honest with yourself. And sometimes it means admitting that you've let people cross lines for years because you weren't clear enough to set them. But once you do the work, you start walking differently. You stop waiting for other people to figure you out. You stop playing the guessing game. And suddenly, the people in your life start meeting you with a different kind of respect because you've finally drawn the lines you needed. So if you want people to respect your boundaries instantly, This is where it begins. Don't rush past it. Don't look for a script before you've got your clarity. Decide what's okay for you and what isn't. Write it down if you need to. Sit with it until it feels solid, because once you know, you can say it, and once you can say it with confidence, the respect will follow. That's the power of clarity. Here's something I've noticed about boundaries. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. You could have the clearest boundary in the world, but if the delivery is shaky, defensive, or hostile, people won't respect it the way you want them to. That's why communicating with calm confidence matters so much. Calm confidence is the difference between someone brushing off your boundary and someone instantly recognizing you mean it. When most of us first start setting boundaries, we overcompensate. We come in hot, maybe a little too aggressive, because deep down we're afraid people won't take us seriously. Or we go the other direction. We get nervous, we sugarcoat, we apologize for even having a boundary, and then we wonder why nobody listens. Both extremes send the same message. You're not sure about your own boundary. And if you're not sure, why would anyone else be? But when you communicate calmly and confidently, everything changes. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to explain yourself for 5 minutes. You don't need to lace it with guilt or frustration. You just state it like a fact, the same way you'd say, the sky is blue or the meeting starts at 10. Boundaries should feel that neutral. And people respond to that neutrality because it doesn't leave room for negotiation. Think about a time someone gave you instructions with absolute calm certainty. Maybe a teacher, a boss, a coach. They didn't yell, they didn't plead, they just said it, and you knew they meant it. That's the energy you want behind your boundaries. Not heavy, not harsh, not timid, steady. The kind of tone that says, I've already decided this, I'm not debating it, and I don't need your permission to stick to it. And let me point this out, calm confidence isn't about being cold. It's not about shutting people down or making them feel small. It's about respect, respect for yourself and respect for the other person. When you say no in a calm, confident way, you're not attacking them. You're simply stating what works for you. That makes it much easier for them to hear you without feeling defensive. Here's an example. Imagine someone asks you to take on extra work when you're already maxed out. If you snap back with, I'm sick of people always dumping stuff on me, that's anger. It may be justified, but it's not calm confidence. On the flip side, if you respond with, I guess I could try, but I'm kind of busy, so maybe not. That's uncertainty. Both of those approaches invite pushback. But if you calmly say, I don't have the capacity to take that on right now, that's confident, that's clear, and usually that's the end of the conversation. Calm confidence also means being okay with silence. A lot of people, after stating a boundary, rush to fill the silence with extra explanations because they're uncomfortable. They'll say, I can't make it tonight because I'm just so tired, and I had this long week, and maybe if I finish early, I can stop by. And before they know it, they've talked themselves out of their own boundary. Don't do that. Say your boundary, and then stop talking, let the silence sit. People will respect the strength in that pause. Now, this is where self-control comes in. Calm confidence isn't always natural, especially if you're used to reacting out of frustration or fear, but it's a muscle you can build. When you feel yourself getting worked up, take a breath. Lower your shoulders. Speak slower. Remind yourself, I don't need to fight. I don't need to beg. I just need to be steady. That one adjustment can completely change the energy in the room. And let me be real with you. People notice the shift. When you start communicating this way, You'll see it in their body language. They'll pause. They'll lean back. They'll take your words in. Because calm confidence signals something powerful. You're not seeking their approval. You're not afraid of their reaction. You've already decided what's right for you, and you're simply informing them. That's magnetic. That's respected. The truth is, calm confidence has less to do with the words themselves and more to do with the energy behind them. You could say the same exact sentence in two different ways, and one version will get brushed off while the other will land with authority. So if you want people to respect your boundaries instantly, don't just memorize a phrase. Practice the delivery. Practice the calm. Practice the confidence. And when you do, you'll find that the pushback you used to get starts disappearing. People stop testing you. They stop trying to wear you down. Because they feel something different from you now. They feel certainty. And certainty commands respect. That's the power of calm confidence. One of the biggest mistakes people make when setting boundaries is overcomplicating them. They pile on explanations, they apologize before they even say it, or they try to soften it so much that the message gets lost. And the problem with that is simple. The more words you use, the more space you give the other person to argue, to negotiate, or to ignore what you just said. That's why direct, simple language is so important. The shorter and clearer your boundary, the more powerful it becomes. Think about how people receive information. If I tell you something in a long, roundabout way, you might nod politely, but your brain is working overtime trying to figure out what I actually meant. But if I say it directly, you don't have to guess. You get it instantly. Boundaries work the same way. The clearer you are, the less chance there is for misunderstanding, and the more respect you'll earn right away. Now, I get it. Directness can feel uncomfortable. A lot of us grew up learning that being direct is rude, or that we need to cushion everything we say so we don't hurt anyone's feelings. So when it comes time to set a boundary, we load it with extras. Instead of saying, "No, I can't do that," we say, "I'm so sorry. It's just that I've got a lot going on and I don't want to disappoint you, and maybe next week would be better, but I'll see if I can shuffle things around." And by the time we're done, the other person doesn't even hear the no. What they hear is, "Maybe I can talk them into it if I push a little harder." Direct language takes that away. It closes the loopholes. A simple, "That doesn't work for me," or "I'm not able to do that," or just plain "no." Those are complete sentences. They stand on their own. And the best part, you don't need to apologize for them. You don't need to dress them up. When you're direct, you send the message that you value your own time and energy enough to say exactly what you mean. Here's the beauty of keeping it simple. It protects your confidence. The more you explain, the more room you give yourself to second guess. Have you ever noticed that? You start giving reasons, and halfway through, you catch yourself thinking, "Wait, is this a good enough excuse? Should I add more? Will they think I'm being unreasonable?" That spiral is what makes you sound unsure. But if you keep it short, you cut all that noise out. You state your boundary and you move on. Let me give you an example. Say someone invites you to an event and you don't want to go. You could launch into a whole story about how busy you are, how your schedule is packed, how maybe you'll try to swing by if things calm down. Or you could simply say, "Thank you for the invite. I won't be able to make it." That's it. Clear, respectful. Don't. The first version invites negotiation. The second version leaves no confusion. And don't underestimate how much people actually appreciate directness. We think we're protecting their feelings by giving long explanations, but really we're just making things murky. People would much rather know exactly where you stand than try to decode what you really mean. Direct boundaries are actually kinder because they give the other person clarity instead of false hope. Of course, the first few times you do this, it might feel blunt. It might feel almost too short. But remember, direct doesn't mean harsh. Tone matters. You can say, "No, I can't do that," in a steady, kind voice. You can say, "That doesn't work for me," with calm respect. The tone carries the warmth, the words carry the clarity. Together, they create boundaries that stick without burning bridges. And here's something powerful to keep in mind: direct language earns trust. People might not always like your boundaries in the moment, but they'll trust you more because they know you mean what you say. They won't have to guess whether you really meant no or if you secretly meant maybe. They'll know that when you speak, you're telling the truth. And that kind of trust builds stronger, healthier relationships in the long run. So here's the challenge. Cut the fluff. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Stop giving 10 reasons when one will do. Practice short, direct sentences until they feel natural, because when you make your boundaries simple and clear, people won't just hear them, they'll respect them. That's the power of direct, simple language. Here's where a lot of people trip up when it comes to boundaries. They set them once, maybe even twice, but then they back down the moment it feels uncomfortable. And when that happens, the boundary loses its weight. People start to see it as flexible, negotiable, something they can push against until you cave. That's why consistency is everything. If you want people to respect your boundaries instantly, you've got to show them that your boundaries don't come with an expiration date, and they don't bend depending on the day. Think about it like this. Imagine a parent tells their kid, "No dessert before dinner." But then, every few nights, they let it slide because they're tired or they don't feel like dealing with the pushback. What do you think happens? The kid doesn't stop asking. In fact, they ask even more because they've learned that if they keep pushing long enough, eventually the answer flips. That's exactly how adults operate too. If you're inconsistent with your boundaries, people will test you, not because they're evil or manipulative, but because you've taught them that no doesn't really mean no. Consistency doesn't mean you have to be rigid or unkind. It means you're steady. It means you've decided what works for you, and you stick to it even when it's inconvenient. And let's be honest, it will get inconvenient. The real test of your boundaries isn't in the easy moments when everyone smiles and nods. It's when someone pushes back, when they roll their eyes, when they guilt, trip you, or question your decision. That's where consistency proves whether or not you actually believe in your own boundary. And here's the key. People are watching what you do more than what you say. You can say, "I need time for myself on weekends." But if every time someone calls you, you drop everything and run to help, what do they learn? They learn that your boundary is more of a suggestion than a rule. But if you consistently hold that line, if you politely decline and protect that time every single weekend, people eventually stop testing it. They stop asking because they know the answer. Consistency builds credibility. When people see you stick to your boundaries, they stop trying to negotiate with you. They respect you more because they know you're reliable. And let's flip it for a second. Imagine being on the other side. Imagine having a friend who sometimes says no but usually gives in. You wouldn't take their no seriously, right? You'd hear it as maybe. That's what inconsistency does. It turns your no into a maybe. Now, staying consistent doesn't mean you have to be harsh. You don't need to defend yourself over and over. In fact, the more consistent you are, the less energy you'll have to spend defending your boundaries. At first, people might resist. They might test you. They might even get upset. But over time, your consistency teaches them that this isn't about them. It's about you living in alignment with your values. And once they realize you're not budging, they adjust. I'll tell you something else: consistency makes boundaries easier for you. The first few times you hold the line, it can feel uncomfortable. You might feel guilty, you might question yourself, you might wonder if you're being too difficult. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Consistency builds momentum. Each time you enforce your boundary, you remind yourself, this matters to me. I'm allowed to protect this. And before long, it's not a fight anymore. It's just who you are. Let's bring this down to something simple. Say you decide you won't answer work emails after 7 p.m. The first night, you're tempted to just check. The second night, you feel a little guilty. But by the 10th night, it's automatic. You've trained yourself and you've trained the people around you. Now, they don't expect you to reply late at night because you've consistently shown them you won't. That's the power of steady action. It shapes not just your habits, but the expectations others place on you. And here's the hard truth: if you're inconsistent, people will believe the inconsistency more than the boundary itself. One exception can undo 5 times you said no. That's why you've got to decide ahead of time what matters and commit to it. Not when it's easy. Not when you feel like it. Every time. Because here's what happens when you're consistent: people stop arguing with you. They stop questioning you. They stop testing you. Why? Because they've learned there's no point. And that's when you finally feel the relief that comes with boundaries doing what they're meant to do. Protect your peace without constant battles. That's the power of consistency. If you really want people to respect your boundaries instantly, it starts with something deeper than the words you say. It starts with the way you treat yourself. Because here's the truth: the way you respect yourself sets the standard for how everyone else will treat you. You can lay out boundaries all day long, but if your actions show that you don't value your own time, your own energy, your own well-being, then no one else is going to either. Respecting yourself is the foundation of every boundary. It's like trying to build a house. If the foundation isn't solid, it doesn't matter how nice the walls are, they won't hold. When you live like your time doesn't matter, or your needs always come last, you're teaching the people around you that it's okay to treat you the same way. But when you show through your own behavior that you honor your limits, that you protect your peace, that you prioritize your well-being, you don't have to work nearly as hard to get others on board. They'll pick up on it immediately. Think about it. If you constantly cancel on yourself, skip rest, ignore your goals, say yes when you're already burned out, you're signaling that your needs aren't that important. And people follow that lead. They'll assume if it's okay for them to put themselves last, then it's okay for me to do the same. On the other hand, if you make it clear by the way you live that your time matters, your energy matters, and you matter, people notice. They adjust to the standard you've already set for yourself. This is why self-respect is so powerful. It removes the need for constant explanation. When you respect yourself, your boundaries don't sound like demands. They sound like reflections of how you already live. There's no gap between what you say and what you do, and that kind of alignment is magnetic. It makes people pause and think, okay, they're serious about this. Here's an example. Imagine someone says, I really value my health, but you always see them skipping sleep, eating poorly, never taking a break. How seriously are you going to take their words? Probably not much. Now imagine someone else who goes to bed on time, eats well, works out, takes breaks, and consistently says no to things that interfere with their well-being. When that person says, "I'm not available because I need to prioritize my health," you don't question it. You respect it because their actions already showed you they mean it. It's the same with boundaries. People aren't just listening to your words, they're watching your habits. Do you respect your own calendar, or do you let everyone else fill it? Do you respect your own commitments, or do you break them for anyone who asks? Do you respect your own energy, or do you drain yourself dry to keep everyone else comfortable? These are the quiet signals that tell people how far they can go with you. And here's the beautiful part. When you start respecting yourself more, you actually feel less pressure to defend your boundaries. You don't have to argue or over-explain because your life already communicates the message. You're not just saying, "My time is valuable." You're living in a way that proves it. That proof is what earns respect instantly. Now, I'll be honest, respecting yourself isn't always easy. It means you'll disappoint people sometimes. It means saying no when you'd rather avoid the discomfort. It means holding firm even when guilt shows up. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And every time you follow through, every time you choose self-respect over people pleasing, you reinforce your boundaries not just to others, but to yourself. And that's another key. Boundaries aren't only about teaching other people how to treat you. They're also about teaching yourself how to treat you. Because if you don't believe you deserve respect, you'll keep settling for less. You'll keep bending, over-giving, over-explaining. But when you raise the standard for yourself, something shifts. You start walking differently, talking differently, showing up differently. And people can feel it. Respecting yourself doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to be consistent. It's choosing to keep promises you've made to yourself. It's choosing to rest when you're exhausted instead of pushing through for everyone else. It's choosing to invest in your own growth instead of always pouring into others while leaving yourself empty. When people see that, they don't argue with your boundaries. They take them seriously because they know you take yourself seriously. So if you're wondering why people don't respect your boundaries yet, don't just look at what you're telling them. Look at what you're showing them. Ask yourself, am I modeling self-respect in the way I live? Or am I teaching people through my actions that it's okay to overlook me? Because at the end of the day, the strongest boundaries are the ones backed by a life that already proves them. That's the power of respecting yourself first. There's one thing about boundaries that makes people uncomfortable to even think about, but it's the part that gives them the most power. And it's this: you have to be willing to walk away. Because if you're not willing to walk away from situations, from conversations, even from relationships where your boundaries aren't respected, then your boundaries are just words. They don't carry any weight. They're like a sign that says, "No trespassing," but sits in a field with no fence, no gate, no consequence for crossing. People might glance at it, but they'll keep walking if they know nothing will happen. This is the part where most people hesitate. They'll say, "I set the boundary, I communicated clearly, I even did it calmly and consistently," but they still don't respect it. And that's when you have a choice to make. Do you keep tolerating it because it's easier in the short term, or do you show that you value yourself enough to walk away when the line keeps getting crossed? That choice is what separates boundaries that are respected from boundaries that are ignored. Walking away doesn't always mean cutting people out of your life forever. Sometimes it's stepping out of a conversation that's gone too far. Sometimes it's taking space from someone until they can engage with you differently. Sometimes it's leaving a job or ending a partnership or saying goodbye to a relationship that refuses to honor who you are. Whatever the situation looks like, the principle is the same. You're showing that your boundary isn't just a preference, it's a standard. And if it isn't met, you won't stick around. And here's the truth: when people know you're willing to walk away, they treat you differently. They realize you're not just bluffing. You're not setting boundaries as suggestions. You're setting them as non-negotiables. That's when respect shows up instantly, because people understand there's no point in pushing. You've already shown them you'd rather lose their approval than lose your self-respect. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Walking away sounds harsh. It sounds final, and maybe even a little selfish. But it's not selfish. It's necessary. Because what's the alternative? Staying in environments where you're constantly drained, disrespected, or dismissed. That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. And every time you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you weaken your own boundaries. Being willing to walk away actually makes your boundaries easier to maintain. Why? Because people feel that strength in you. They sense it. Even if you never say it out loud, they can tell that you're not dependent on their reaction. And ironically, that makes them more likely to honor your boundaries without you ever having to leave. It's like knowing someone is willing to end a deal if the terms aren't right. You respect the deal more because you know they're not desperate to keep it. But let's be real, walking away isn't easy. It takes courage. It takes letting go of the hope that someone might suddenly change if you just hang on long enough. It takes choosing your peace over your comfort zone. And it takes reminding yourself that you deserve relationships, workplaces, and environments that respect you without needing constant battles. That's not asking for too much. That's the baseline. The first time you walk away, it might feel scary. It might even feel wrong. But what you'll notice afterward is powerful. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel stronger. And most importantly, you'll feel proud that you chose yourself. That pride is what builds confidence for the next time, and the next time after that. Each time you show yourself that you're willing to walk away, you reinforce the truth that you are worth respecting no matter what. And here's something I want you to take with you. People who truly value you won't let you walk away without doing their part. They'll adjust, they'll reflect, they'll meet you halfway. Walking away doesn't destroy healthy relationships, it strengthens them. Because the people who care will rise to the standard you set, and the people who don't, they'll fall off. And as painful as that can be, it's also clarity. You don't have to waste your time fighting for respect in places where it was never going to come. So if you want your boundaries to be respected instantly, carry this mindset. I don't have to beg. I don't have to explain 100 times. I don't have to tolerate disrespect. I'm willing to walk away if I have to. That willingness alone changes everything. That's the power of being willing to walk away.